Hello and welcome back to another week with me, Kimmy. Welcome back to my channel. I hope your January is going okay. For this week's video, I thought I would start to kind of kick off a series that is heavily requested in my comment section. And by heavily, I mean I got like 3 comments. And that suggestion is Disneyland themes or makeup looks based off of Disneyland rides or just Disney in general. And so I thought I would kind of take all those and put them in one little basket and kick off a Disney series and kind of put together different looks each week that would be inspired by something in the Disney realm. Now, of course, we know that means it could be anything from a theme park ride, it could be a section of the park in general, maybe off of my favorite cocktail. I mean, that would be kind of basic, it's beer. But you know what I mean. And then that also means that it could be something Marvel themed. It could be something Star Wars themed. The Disney world is my oyster at this point. But I wanted to kick it off this week with actually something kind of random, but probably one of my favorite rides to ever exist. And that is Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye. I saw news that apparently there's an Indiana Jones video game. And so then that kind of kicked off like, oh, what would I do as like an Indiana Jones inspired look? And I wanted to treat it more as if I was Disney bounding and going to the park and what I could come up with. And for some reason, when I think of like rugged, sweaty Harrison Ford, I think of like a nice, sultry, smoky eye. I don't know why, but would I go fight snakes looking like this? Probably not. I probably wouldn't have makeup on at all. But if I think about it, this is what I was inspired to do. So yeah, a little bit of history about Indiana Jones. It opened in March of 1995. So it has been around for a hot minute. This was kind of the first big ride that Disney actually introduced into its parks for quite a while. It had kind of been like new little rides here and there, but because they had such a success in the early 90s with all of their early 90s films, they were able to put more money into parks, and the stunt show in Orlando was so successful, so they decided to make a ride off of it. Now, if you look up the original concepts of what the Indiana Jones ride was supposed to be, it's so cool. And I mean, it would have sacrificed the Jungle Cruise, which now I wouldn't be a fan of, but obviously growing up, I was very young when that ride came out. It was cool. Like, it was supposed to be 2 different experiences, one similar to what we've got right now, and then the other one was like a boat ride. Like, so that would have been pretty cool. Don't get me wrong, I love the ride that we have right now. I think it was way ahead of its time, and it scared the ever-living like shit out of me as a kid. And I think it was because, if you remember, there was an ad. It had Jonathan Taylor Thomas in it, and he was previewing the ride. I don't know if it was an ad or if it, like, I just remember something on the Disney Channel where they had JTT, all young Simba, you know, age, and he was going into the temple and looked into the eyes of Mara, and then all the kids started screaming and freaking out, and then I think that just kind of stuck with me. So for the first few years that I rode that ride, it was me head buried into my dad's arm. Which I feel like that's how a lot of kids ride it. I know my niece and nephew were kind of the same way. Obviously it took over the Eeyore parking lot, so you know that there's a couple little like hidden things that you can do, but it's also like apparently a mile walk. Because you actually have to go underneath, like, into that area, which makes a lot of sense if you think about it, because it feels like you're leading that ride for forever. But yeah, so a lot of advanced technology with the actual car itself and how it operates. Like, it's just a lot of fun, and it's really cool, and in my opinion, you can't really go wrong with Harrison Ford. So yeah, enough of me rambling. If you would like to see more looks that are Disney themed, or if you have a suggestion, definitely put those in the comment section below. Subscribe if you have not already, and hit that notification bell so anytime I upload a new Disney themed or Disney inspired look, you'll be the first to know, you know? But yeah, if you want to see how I put together this kind of like monochromatic, sultry, smoky, this is how I would go on an adventure look, then just keep watching. All right, already primed. I'm barefaced right now because I'm doing a smokier look, and so I always like to go back in later and kind of clean things up, and then I figured we would just kind of hop right in. I want to do this as more of like a warmer look, and then I'm just gonna take brown liner. You can use any brown liner that you have. You guys have seen me do this before on one of my other previous like smoky eye tutorials, but just any liner as your base. You don't have to be super precise with it. Just line your upper lid. I like to do one eye at a time usually when it comes to this because I don't know how quickly a lot of the liners set. So basically I just do a thick line, not very neatly at all, and then I'm going to go in with just like a tiny little smudge brush and I'm going to smudge it out. So that's kind of the initial shape that I want. It basically just runs all across my lid and it has most of the depth there. So when I lay shadow on top of it, it's going to be even more deep and smoky. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other eye real quick. Now I'm going to go over this eyeliner that I've laid down that I've smudged out into the initial shape that I want. I'm going to go over it with the shade Legacy from this Mulan ColourPop palette. It's got a little bit of like some gold and silver shimmers in it, but it doesn't read a ton on the skin. And so I'm going to do multiple layers on top of it. Basically, I'm just going to take a little flat brush and dip into that and pack the color right on top. I'm not going to Same thing, I'm not really going to be so concerned about blending just yet because I'm going to do that with other colors towards the end. I'm mainly focused about getting that depth and dimension directly towards my lash line. And just laying it right on top of that shape. And so you can already see how much depth that's given. And so now with a clean, just kind of precise blending brush, I'm just going to softly go in right on top of that shadow. No product is on the brush. I'm just slowly going to start to buff out the edges. So now you can see without any of that extra product on there, just kind of buffing out the edges really slowly, it's already started to soften and blow out that line. So that way when we add the additional colors to the crease area, it'll really start to look buffed and blended out. You know what I mean? Alright, and so now that I've got kind of both eyes softened out to where I want them to be, I'm going to go over it again with an actual like warmer shade. Because if you think of like I just imagine the whole color aesthetic with the exception of like the UV, like black and like ultraviolet areas of the ride, everything is very brown, taupes, fire, and so that's what I'm kind of inspired by with this look. And so now I think I want to go in with the shade Feeling Myself. It's a very bright orange. It's almost like a little peachy, but I would say it's definitely on the brighter orange side, just on like a fluffy stippling brush. And I'm gonna place it directly on where the smoky is so I can start the initial blend there and just do the back and forth. And then slowly start to do the circular motions up. So just right on top. And so then you really start to get kind of that gradient effect. really starts to look kind of soft and blown out. I'm going to use the shade Strength from that same Mulan palette. It's more of a deeper orange, and kind of place that right in the middle of that. And so it amplifies kind of that terracotta color for that orange kind of color a little more too. And so that's kind of the level of smokiness that I want with it. I think I'm going to do a shimmer on top of it. Mara mentions earthly riches, so I think I'm going to go on top of the smokier area one more time with a brown just to kind of get everything really blended, and then I'm going to go on top with another shimmer on top. So I'm going to go back in with that same like flat brush, no extra product on it, just what I had left over, just to kind of get some of that definition back. And then I'm going to take, I think I want to take the shade Be Swift. It's just like a true gold. And I'm just going to use my finger, you know, kind of the drill with that. And I'm going to place it on top. I think that's kind of what I want to achieve. So it's got a little bit of the smokiness on top, and then it's got some of the shimmer, so when the light hits it, you'll get to see that gold. So I'm gonna do the same on the other eye real quick. So I went ahead and tight lined and did mascara on my upper lashes along with the glitter and everything on the other eye. So I'm gonna go in and do my foundation now. For the lower lash line, I'm just gonna line my waterline, that same round liner. And then I'm going to take that same initial like smudge brush that I used and just kind of run it along that. And then I'm going to take a little pencil brush and tip into the shade Strength from that Mulan palette. So it's that like burnt orange color. And I'm going to run that right below that. And then now I'm going to take one of those stippling brushes as well. So just like one tiny little dab, kind of dust off some of the excess and run that directly underneath and back up. Just since we cleaned everything up with concealer, this will just kind of blow everything back out again. So I'm going to do the other eye and then throw some mascara on my lower lashes, and then I'll do the lip. Alright, so this is the finished look. Like I said, heavily inspired by Indiana Jones. It's more of if I were planning on going into the park and full Disney bounding, this is probably what I would do with my face, and then I would probably have like some, you know, like tan button up, a fedora, and a whip. I do plan on doing quite a few different things when it comes to a Disney theme. I'm keeping it kind of broad. I want to do something from each land in the park, and I want to maybe do stuff inspired by some of my favorite Disney movies, maybe some effects stuff in there, maybe some artsy things in there, but for the most part I'd like to keep something pretty wearable. So if it's like, hey, you know, I'm feeling like Princess Jasmine today, this is the eyeshadow look that I want to do, I want to make sure that you're able to recreate it yourself as well. But if you have any ideas or any specific movies or rides or anything like that that you want to see me put on my face, then go ahead and throw those in the comment section below. Otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Ba-ba-da. Ba-ba-da-ba. Ba-ba-da. Bing.